is AllWalletDevs call number 35. We're going to be talking about a few different things today. ERC 7920, MetaMask improvement proposal number 6, as well as two changes to the 5792 capability set. So yeah, I guess let's kick it off with a little bit of discussion about an MDN-like wallet API page. So this is a project I've been kicking around for a while. I haven't been able to spend any time on it, so I'm just bringing it up here, maybe to get some interest from other developers, wallets in the space. I'd like to build an MDN-like resource that documents all of the wallet APIs that are available, preferably with like a can I use style interface. If this is something that interests you, something you'd like to work on, give me a message on Discord. I'd be happy to, give you a hand and get you started. Yeah, so that's about it on that for now. We can kick that off to later if we want to talk about it more, because I think we actually have some technical discussions today. Do we have somebody from MetaMask here to talk about MIP6?
Well, I don't know how this got on. I'm from MetaMask. I don't know how this got on our on the agenda, but who pushed this onto the agenda? I'm happy to talk about it.
Oh, we talked about it last time, and we just wanted to bring it back up and see if anybody had any thoughts on it after reading.
I see. Okay, cool. I missed last time, so I see. Uh, okay,
Yeah, do you
so
want to
yeah,
give us? Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, so I'd imagine some folks here are familiar with like Casa and the Capes. If not, though, that's the Chain Agnostic Standards Alliance. So I can drop the GitHub org if you bear with me for a second. But basically, Juan Bumblefudge maybe has dropped into this meeting before. He sort of runs it, and this is a effort to create some standards that bridge and sort of go above any particular ecosystem and can glue them together. And so we at MetaMask have been for a while adopting the uh, a few of these capes, the sort of central ones being Cape 25 and Cape 27, which describe here. Sorry, I'm just gonna drop this in there. And these describe sort of handshake and uh, sort of request protocols that theoretically and actually at the moment now we have a full implementation in MetaMask as a sort of parallel API alongside our 1193 API, the injected Ethereum provider. And so happy to, if anyone has any questions or wants to play around with it, I can drop some resources for doing that. But yeah, this allows you to query and provides standardization and protocols for yeah, making requests to EVM chains, to Solana, Cosmos, you name the ecosystem, and these are all standardized within the sort of Casa framework. They have namespacing and various standardization within, if you explore within the chain agnostic link that I linked. Um, and yeah, that's the kind of overall purpose. And we are, yeah, these standards power our quote unquote multi-chain API, which has a number of, improvements, UX improvements to, the standard EIP 1193 API interface that we're sort of used to in the EVM world, at least. And yeah, we think this is a great standard. We've been working on it and helping shape it for some time with Casa, with Wallet Connect, and we would encourage others to do the same. We've been kind of slow to to DevRel it as much and sort of promote it as much as we'd like, but that's the rough idea. So yeah, happy to answer any questions or concerns.
If you could ask like one action from wallet developers on the call, what would you like them to do? Leave a comment on your discussion thread or
Yeah, I mean, I would love I think the so MIP 6 is a decent place. MIP 5 is MIP 5 and MIP 6 are kind of more or less the same thing. Would love for folks to engage. There's a discussion thread there. I would also encourage you all to take a look at Cape 25, which I can link as like I think it's the probably the best entry point into sort of understanding what's being um, uh, what we're going for with this new API. And it will link you to some of the corollary and ancillary PRs or standards. Um, and yeah, and so engage there. There's a Discord. There's the Casa Discord. I'll drop an invite in the Zoom chat here as well. So if anyone's interested in, we're eager for other adopters, and we think that this is like the path forward, or it's there's obviously a lot of paths forward, but this is our chosen path forward for sort of bringing our wallet into a more uh, agnostic world where we're not no longer just an EVM only wallet, and this is kind of the tip of the spear for that effort. So I'll drop some links in the Zoom chat, the Cape 25, MIP 5, and the Casa Discord invite link. So looking for engagement, thoughts on any and all of those places.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
If there aren't any questions, I guess we can move on to the next topic, which is EAP 7920, which is by Sola, who I think I saw on the call. Yeah. So I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit about 7920. We merged the draft PR, I think, 3 to 4 months ago, and just haven't yet kind of brought it up to the wallet devs, and I was hoping to do that on this call and see if I can get some feedback. And we'd also like to move it into review, formal review. So if anyone would love to be a part of that process, just let me know. I'll start off by just explaining what it is. So 7920 allows basically batch signing of off-chain signatures. So EIP 712 signatures. 712 signatures are becoming pretty quite popular in the ecosystem, largely because they allow apps to interact with EOAs without relying on state changes and state modifications. You can think of state changes as kind of like a slightly slower, um, costly process to go back and forth between two parties. And so both sides can kind of agree on or can kind of speak to each other without that process. It kind of speeds things up, and it doesn't require the EOA to hold any ETH. Um, and so off-chain signatures are kind of picking up Hyperliquid, Polymarket, Wallet Sign In, and some payment protocols are also kind of picking it up. But with that kind of popularity, I think there's a need for a workflow sort of improvement to allow multiple off-chain messages to be signed in one signature. And that's what 7920 does. It basically allows the user to kind of look at a bunch of messages and say, okay, I agree with all this, and then put one signature on the set of messages, and then have those messages be verifiable by apps and also on chain. And what's really cool about 7920 is that it allows, uh, in order to verify that any single message was signed, you don't need to know about what else was in the batch. You can just kind of only look for your message in the batch signature and verify that. And so it really lightens the load on apps in that regard. And some of the other benefits, I'll just kind of go through it. Um, uh, yeah, single signature, isolated verification. You don't need to know everything that was signed. You just need to know about the thing that you care about being signed. And then it's also human readable. And so EIP 712, kind of the major benefit of it is that you have full visibility into what you're signing, and 7920 kind of built on top of that. And so all the benefits of 712 are preserved. Um, and then it's also compatible with 712 signatures. So in the sense that you can write a verifier for 7920 that can also still verify 712 signatures that weren't signed as 7920. And stepping back, I'll explain. What that means is you essentially you can think of a regular EIP 712 signature as a batch of one, or a Merkle tree with only one entry, where the root and the leaf nodes are the same. And so that sort of that primitive allows um, 7920 aware apps to validate signatures that were signed by older wallets. And so it's backwards compatible. And then it also allows for new verification modes. So one of the cool things you can do with 7920 is you can say that, hey, this message, and you can say that two messages can only be signed together, or you can say that, hey, these two messages can never be signed together. And so you can now start to you can have full visibility into the batch if you care, or no visibility into the batch. And so that's kind of a cool feature. Um, but yeah, the full spec for this is up the uh, on the we have a thread going on Ethereum Magicians, and then we also are up on the Ethereum EIP website. And then I also set up a website just for 7920. It's called erc7920.org. I'll paste the link in the Zoom here. And I would love for folks to just sort of engage with it. And like I said earlier, we're looking for kind of formal reviewers, for the next phase of this. And just anyone who has kind of thoughts and ideas on ways to improve this. I'll also put my Discord and Twitter links on the website, so you can reach out to me anytime. But yeah, that's it.
That sounds super cool. What kind of use cases do you envision for this?
So I started working on this because I was working on a DEX that needed we were a gas-free DEX, and we had this this two signature problem that everyone has. It's like, oh, hey, you need to approve a permit two, or 3009, or whatever, transfer with authorization. Basically, you had to do a token approval and then a swap approval right after each other. And that was super frictional. And so this, for example, would allow the user to sign one message that has kind of all of it, everything in that one batch. And also just kind of apps that are coming up. I see a lot of like Hyperliquid has an off-chain signature for setting leverage before you trade, and there's a bunch of pre-configurations that need to happen before you trade. That all can be batched into one, placing multiple orders on their decks, without having to kind of post make separate calls. That would be huge. And also wallet sign-in. I noticed a lot of apps have kind of a separate signature. Well, they have one signature for the terms of service and the privacy policy, saying, hey, I agree to both terms of service and privacy policy. With 7920, you can split that up and have the user agree to privacy policy in one message, in terms of service, and then in another message, and then have the app kind of hold both signatures in isolation and verify them if you verify them together if you want both of them signed in one batch, or verify them kind of separately if you care about that. So just a lot of use cases for workflows that require sort of multi-message workflows. And I think those are kind of increasingly going to become more prominent.
Cool, thanks. Orest, your hand is up.
A quick question. Like you said, this is the problem everyone has and has had for a while. Do you see, like, is there some predecessor work to this?
Uh, Not really. Oh, well, if you look at the full spec, there is a new JSON RPC method that is needed. Um, and I called it sign type data v5. But all it really does is that it computes a a Merkle. So it signs a batch signature, computes the batch signature, but it also returns a Merkle root that you can use to verify the batch off chain. And it does require developers to have a new verifier for 7920. So it's there are things that need to be done, but I don't think these are large things, particularly because of the UX improvements that we get here. I think they're pretty achievable.
Thank you.
Adam?
Yeah, the only other the prior art which I was reminded of was the I don't know if you come across Biconomy's super transactions idea, which isn't sort of exactly equivalent, but they have an approach where they sort of like similarly, I think it uses Merkle root to essentially sign with one signature a bunch of different on-chain calls, so that could be on one chain or across chains, and that's how they sort of like make their sort of I think it's their modular execution environment makes multiple calls with one user signature. So I don't know if you've seen that, but there might be some interesting folks to talk to, or at least check their works. That's powering their stuff in production right now.
Got it. I have not. I will check that out. Thanks for pointing that out.
So how does this interact with 7702 and being able to do like multiple calls in the same account, right? I guess you could probably mix that with what is it, 1271 to do signatures on chain or off chain signatures rather. So like, have you thought about how it would interact with like rich accounts?
So what I've kind of been thinking about this is almost like a separate problem. So 7702 is really cool for allowing wallets to kind of batch multiple transactions into one call. I've been thinking about this more as a way for developers to um, talk to EOAs more efficiently without relying on state change. So it's more for off-chain use cases. It's what I've been kind of thinking about. Whereas 7702 is, I mean, kind of a game changer for on-chain batching. 7920 is kind of similar, but for off-chain.
I think you can do off chain with 7702 as well, though. You could sign a transaction that deploys your account and then implements 1271 to do like a batch verification. And then you wouldn't actually have to play the transaction on chain to get the results. You could just do it off chain and see if the signature validates.
That is cool. I'm just running into 1271, so I will check that out. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, just a thought. Like I have no idea if that's practical, but maybe something worth looking at.
That's good.
Cool. So any other questions on 7920? If not, thank you so much for presenting that. That's a really interesting proposal. And then we can move on to the gas limit override capability if Adam is here. I think I saw you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Adam. I work on Coinbase Smart Wallet. And we have been pushing EIP 5792 pretty hard, which is the wallet send calls method. And one of the feedback that we get from our developers is, you know, they have no way to communicate a gas limit for the calls that they're making to the wallet. And so, like we use a 4337 account abstracted wallet, and right now we're delegating call gas limit estimation to the bundler, and the bundler doesn't always have context on the calls that are being made. So, for example, like a DEX swap that's going through a swap router has pretty non-deterministic gas usage, it might get routed to any number of dexes, and the bundler might hit one path that doesn't get flexed. And when it's actually submitted on chain, which can cause the user up to revert if it runs out of gas. So all that to say, with the old ETH send transaction RPC, there was a parameter called gas, where the apps could just specify the gas limit. And I think most wallets respected that gas limit when constructing the transaction. There is no similar functionality in wallet send calls, which is it's one of the considerations in the bottom of the ERC it's discussed. I mean, it's tricky, right? Because like an app can't give an account abstracted wallet a call gas limit because it doesn't know about the smart contracts that are actually being used by the wallet. It doesn't have that context. And similarly, the wallet doesn't really know that much context about the calls that are being made. So my proposal here is to add a capability to 5792 to allow the apps to, per call that they're making, specify a gas limit for each call, and then the wallet will be responsible for calculating any overhead that's associated with batching those calls on chain. And so I've drafted up kind of like a rough draft of an ERC. I was hoping to get some feedback, just kind of gauge interest from folks on the call. If anyone else has run into similar things with 5792 or thinks this could be useful, would appreciate some discussion in the thread, or if anyone has any feedback here. But I imagine people will take some time to read it, but it's hopefully pretty straightforward. Yeah, pause there.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I mean, it makes sense. I think this is a proposal that we probably need. Looking for feedback, same as everybody else. Do you have a prototype implementation already, or?
Not really. No, I mean, the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the server wallet API, and I've implemented on that API, and it's, but it's not really something that's exposed to developers currently. Okay. So don't have a demo today, but maybe that's something I work on.
Cool. Any questions on this one, or seems like we have some support in the chat?
I think one thing I was the example at the moment is all at the level of the call, rather than like there's not a way to provide a top level gas, and like maybe that's intentional. I don't know if you thought about that.
Yeah, it's intentional, and at least my rationale is that like an app doesn't really know if or how the calls are going to be batched. Like take for example like an EOA wallet that's implemented in 5792. Like what does it mean when you're giving an EOA wallet one gas limit for like 3 transactions, and how does it interpret that? Divided by 3, or like, yeah. So I think it really has to be like per call. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I might, instead of calling it an override, I might call it a hint, just as a suggestion.
Sure.
Because in like the current APIs, it sets the gas limit, whereas this one I think would just be hinting to the wallet to increase it, or maybe decrease it, but probably only increase.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's well. So in my current implementation, at least, and I don't know that every wallet would implement it this way. I take the limit that's passed in for each call, and I don't change that limit, but I do add the batching overhead on top of that to account for like our like execute batch function.
So it'd be like an override for that call, and that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, terminology. I don't know what is idiomatic here.
It's bike shedding. Call it whatever. Go ahead.
I still think that hint makes way more sense than override, because even if you support the capability, in some cases you might opt to ignore the value, while in other cases you might opt to use it. I'm talking from the context of a wallet that, let's say, supports EOAs, pure EOAs, 7702, smart accounts, everything. So in some cases, depending on your implementation and your design decisions, you might simply decide not to use it. Like if you're estimating like a bunch of calls and you have the capability to estimate all of them together, but some of them have the gas hint and others don't. For example, one is a batch that comes from one app, and the other one is a batch that comes from another app that doesn't use this capability. So in this case, you will have mixed calls that some of them have the gas hint, others don't, and you would be able to estimate all of them together. So in this case, you have nothing to do with you cannot do anything with the hints for certain calls per se. So I still think that hint makes a lot more sense than any other language like override or gas limit. Something like gas limit hint, I think, makes the most sense.
Okay. I will say that like in my current proposal, I explicitly, if the capability is included on one call, it must be included on all calls. But I'm curious to know more about the use case where you might
Well,
have like partial. Um,
yeah. For example, in Umbire, we can receive batches from multiple apps, and you can batch them together. So like you can get a request from Uniswap, and right after this go on Aave, for example, without signing, and then sign them together. So you would have 5792 batches from multiple dApps. So like two batches that would get batched together into one transaction.
That's neat. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But I agree that gas limit hint makes more sense here. And if you think it should be remove the restriction for making it required on every call, then I can certainly make that change as well.
No, I actually think this restriction makes sense. But you can still have multiple requests from different apps, and then they cannot, like, they don't talk to each other, so they cannot enforce this restriction across different batches. But in one batch, I think it makes perfect sense. Like, in one particular batch, I don't see a use case of having some calls that are hinted and some not. Maybe someone can bring out such a use case, but I don't think so.
I mean,
Or
the simple one would be
actually,
like an approve and swap, right? Like Uniswap wouldn't
yeah,
know how much gas the approve for a random token is going to cost, but they would know how much the swap would, roughly.
yes. Actually, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. They can know, but it adds extra overhead for them to implement this ERC, and it will be much easier for app developers if actually you allow some calls to be unhinted because they care about the gas of the call to their app. They don't care about the approval to USDT, for example.
Makes sense that dApp developers would feel that way as a wallet developer. It's kind of also similarly hard to know the approval gas limit for any given token, but um, yeah, maybe we move this into this discussion thread, and I'll think more about it as well.
Yeah, this should definitely be discussed separately because, from a wallet developer perspective, if you have a mixed batch, then it kind of becomes pointless.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks again for bringing that up. That's great. I think that's a super useful proposal. I don't know if that covered or didn't cover 7836, but if you want to talk about that one too, please do.
Yeah, that's another one. So this ERC is in draft. It probably still needs some love, and I just wanted to bring it up to urge people to review it and give feedback. I guess I can introduce it. It's basically it's a server API for a wallet server API for signing transactions, kind of similar to 5792, but without the signing step. So it's kind of split up into wallet prepare calls and wallet send prepared calls, and kind of the usage pattern would be think of like a session key kind of that's been given to an app, and so the app still doesn't really know how to prepare a transaction and submit a transaction. That should still be the wallet's responsibility, but it does have a signer, and so it can sign without any wallet UI. And so the idea is the app gives the calls and prepare calls, which would generate, I don't know, in our case, like a 4337 user op, and return that to be signed by the client. The client would sign it and then submit it through send prepared calls, which would go through the bundler. This is something that we found pretty useful for shielding our clients from the complexities of creating user ops and submitting them and stuff like that. So I think it also has a lot of use cases around like app wallets and session keys and stuff like that. So anyone who's worked on anything similar to that, we'd love some feedback on the draft. And yeah, there's a Telegram chat as well. If you'd like an invite to that, I can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'd be interested in that. If you want to shoot that over.
Yeah, if I can figure out how to use Telegram.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
I think there was one question on this spec of 7836, which was why the response is like a list of calls. That was the only dangling question, I think, in the Telegram, as well as there's also some questions about some folks wanting to use it for slightly different purposes. And I think keeping it focused makes sense, but the list of calls thing was an open question.
Yeah, I saw that question. I don't have the answer for that. It probably might be just cruft from our initial draft, where we weren't really sure what this was going to look like. But I think in practice, we return a single call. So I think we could revise the ERC.
Nice. And I think there are a few implementations of this in the wild already, as in like in different apps and libraries, most of which are aligned. A couple of like slightly different, but this one, yeah, feels like it would be worth trying to get this over the line so we can align those things, and because it seems to be already useful.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. That's the end of scheduled discussion for today. If we want to chat a little bit, we can. If anybody has anything random they want to talk about, otherwise we can call it for today. Yeah, go for it.
Actually, what I brought up in the chat is quite interesting. So, the ERC for sign in with Ethereum, and a while back they decided that they will use plain text rather than 712 for good reasons. There is a specific article, there is a blog article explaining it. I think it's linked in the ERC as well. Anyway, at this point, things are a bit different, and maybe it's worth revisiting.
Like making sign in with Ethereum v2?
Pretty much, yeah. Over 712. I'm not sure how people feel about this. This is why I'm bringing it up. Otherwise, I would have simply went on to draft it or something, but I personally am not sure whether this is a good idea.
So what does 712 support bring for sign in with Ethereum? It's pretty much only off-chain, right?
Yeah, well, structured data is always better than plain text, right? So if we're moving towards a more structured data point of view, then this can allow wallets to be more localized at one point. It can also allow better accessibility. And yeah, basically that's the argument. Structured data should be better in theory.
I mean, it is still structured data, just a different kind of structure. But I do see your point. It would be nice. I don't like. Could you ever get rid of the plain text parser, or would that always continue to exist as like a legacy thing?
Well, I'm not sure. If everyone migrates to the new EAP, then it's easy to get rid of it. I mean, it's a matter of dApps moving to the new ERC, if there is a new ERC.
Yeah, I mean, as a non-wallet developer who has to do zero work for this, yeah, go for it. It's always
No, I'm not.
better to
I
unify.
actually, I'm not. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be that many strong points for it.
Yeah, I feel like
Actually, the strong point was brought up earlier in the conversation, and I totally forgot about it. It can be part of the batch signing, so that's one cool thing, and you can get rid of stuff like requiring people to sign privacy policy, terms of use, and login separately. And without this, you cannot put it as part of the Merkle batch. So yeah, that's one thing.
I meant to follow up on that actually. Why is it valuable to split the terms and conditions and the privacy policy signatures? Why is this a legal requirement, or why would this be valuable?
I don't know about terms of use and privacy policy, but you certainly have to split login from terms of use, specifically because of how the sign-in with Ethereum proposal is written, because it bounds you to a certain message, and you cannot add any additional things to that message. So this is one potential argument. If you require a few separate signatures to log into your dApp, then with the batching proposal that was discussed earlier in the call, then this can happen. But that's only if it all uses 712.
Gotcha.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to look into. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, that's a great idea. Awesome. So I think with that, I'm going to call it here. Thanks everybody for coming out. A lot of good discussion today. We'll see you all in a month.
See you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.